Seeing very, very current issues of safety, especially for people in public service, doctors, nurses, teachers, and of course, as you know, politicians that are at risk and being attacked. So we have Joe Cox, Sir David Amess, and we have politicians talking about cancelling their surgeries, not wanting to appear in public, teachers being threatened. And James Corden plays an ex-serviceman who is going through a difficult divorce, dealing with a lot of PTSD, also feeling very much like fathers are overlooked, and he wants to fight for their rights. And an old school friend is a local MP, played by Anna Maxwell Martin. And he goes in to start talking to her, and it starts off quite chummy and jovial, and then it darkens and darkens. He gets quite aggressive and frustrated. She wants to help. She's an absolute idealist. This politician's sense of we don't choose who we work for. You know, we are here by duty to work for everybody in our constituency. It spirals a lot. I have to say, Corden, sensational. Really? He really is a fantastic actor. Of all of them, he's so natural, and he has the most difficult role where his character is shifting all the time and becomes potentially quite threatening and dangerous, but then there's also a beautiful catharsis at the end.
The People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, you're GB News. In a moment, headliners. But first, let's bring you the latest news headlines. And Sir Keir Starmer is on his way to the NATO summit in Washington, saying he is committed to increasing defence spending to 2.5% of GDP and will do so following a thorough review of UK defence capability. At the summit, within the last 10 minutes, the US President Joe Biden has been talking about Russian aggression in the east, saying that Ukraine can and will stop Putin. Before flying off to the summit earlier, Sir Keir spoke to reporters.
My message is very, very clear that this NATO summit is an opportunity for allies to stand together, to strengthen their resolve, particularly in light of that appalling attack against Russian aggression. I'm pleased to have the early opportunity to affirm and reaffirm Labour's strong support, unshakable support for NATO. We're a founding member. It's now the 75th anniversary. But this is an opportunity to send that message in relation to Russian aggression wherever. But that attack last week was appalling, and so the message is even more important now than it was before.
Well, earlier on in the day, MPs were sworn in Parliament as Labour ministers sat on the government front benches for the first time in 14 years. 643 MPs gathered ahead of Parliament's state opening, which is slated for next week. Sir Keir Starmer spoke for the first time as well at the dispatch box as Prime Minister.
Now, as in any new Parliament, we have the opportunity and the responsibility to put an end to a politics that has too often seemed self-serving and self-obsessed, and to replace that politics of performance with the politics of service. Because service is a precondition for hope and trust, and the need to restore trust should weigh heavily on every member here, new and returning alike. We all have a duty to show that politics can be a force for good. So whatever our political differences, it's now time to turn the page, unite in a common endeavour of national renewal, and make this new Parliament a Parliament of service.
Well, in response to that, Rishi Sunak, now the leader of the opposition, returned the sentiment.
Can I start by congratulating the Prime Minister on his election victory, and as he takes on his formidable task, he and his family deserve the good wishes of all of us in this House. Now, in our politics, we can argue vigorously, as the Prime Minister and I did over the past 6 weeks, but still respect each other. And whatever disputes we may have in this Parliament, I know that everyone in this House will not lose sight of the fact that we are all motivated by our desire to serve our constituents, our country, and advance the principles that we honourably believe in.
Well, in news away from politics, Dyson is to cut up to 1,000 jobs as part of a global restructuring programme. The Wiltshire-based appliance manufacturer employs about 3,500 people across the UK and is best known for the invention of the bagless vacuum cleaner, innovative fans and hairstyling products. Now, the England squad were training today ahead of their Euro 2024 semi-final tomorrow. Gareth Southgate's side will face the Netherlands in Dortmund. And tonight, Spain beat France 2-1. So if England wins tomorrow, the England squad will face the Spanish side on Sunday. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to news alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Polly. Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's newspapers with three comedians. I'm Leo Kirsten. Tonight, I'm joined by the cream of the comedy circuit. It's Kerry Marks and Paul Cox, the People's Gammon. I don't have a nickname for you, Kerry. Do you want one, like the People's Egg
I
and
don't
Chips?
need a nickname. I'm actually quite disappointed to be here because...
I'm sorry. What way to open the show?
But we were all on this together last time, and I thought we did such a good job that the news was over. I thought,
yeah, you think that would be it.
It's done now. Yeah. But they're still firing stuff at us. Why?
Can we just take a moment, by the way, to appreciate Polly Middlehurst?
Yeah.
I mean, what a pro.
Yeah.
Reading the news like that. I mean, unbelievable. She's like an asset to GB News, Polly.
Something for you to aspire to, Paul.
I'm never going to aspire to Polly's level, but...
Let's see if we can get there tonight. Anyway, that's the chit-chat out of the way. Let's have a look at Wednesday's front pages. The Times leads with Starmer is playing with fire on defence spending. The Guardian has Starmer calls on NATO to raise defence spending. A similar headline. The Daily Mail has Britain's most despicable drink driver. The Telegraph has Prime Minister could boost the size of the armed forces. The Express has cleverly Labour has hung a huge open sign on White Cliffs of Dover. I should point out there that Cleverly is the name of James Cleverly. It's not a clever thing to do to hang that sign on the White Cliffs of Dover. And finally, the Daily Star has Go for it. That's about the football, I think. And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with The Guardian, Kerry. What have they got?
We're being told that Starmer is calling on NATO to raise defence spending, not spedding, but I think spending would be better as we slide slowly towards Third World War at the moment.
And a third world country.
Yeah, totally. And he's going to use NATO. It's NATO's 75th anniversary, so happy birthday
to NATO.
And he's just on his tour of America, where he's going to meet the president, who he will talk about these matters with, and President Biden will mutter something and then start running on about golf
and
whatever else it is. So and also he's announcing a strategic defence review.
He's sort of using this as a way to delay any sort of increase in defence spending, Paul. He's saying, I've got to wait until after this review, and people are making the point that Putin won't wait. He's not going to wait until the public finances are in the right state to invade. He'll do it when he wants to.
Such a good point, Leo. The fact that Sir Keir Starmer, honestly, the most boring person you've ever met in your life, is saying NATO should spend more when he is not yet declaring what we should spend on defence.
Yeah.
That takes some brass, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Spend more. What are you doing? We're going to wait and see us. But you spend more.
You don't know whether Biden will wait, though, really. I mean, it's going to take a year just for this review. So it might be if we ask him nicely.
Well, by which time, I guess Trump could well be in the White House, especially if Biden's still trying to run for president, or if he's replaced by Kamala. So, I mean, if Trump's in the White House, I mean, we don't exactly know for sure how Trump is going to be when he's in power. But he's certainly making a lot of sort of noises.
We remember him telling Putin that he's got a bigger button. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah, but he's made a lot of noises. I mean, he's pushed a more pro-Russian movement in the Republicans.
He certainly feels that NATO themselves should pull their weight more. Yeah. When he was in power for those 4 years previously, he was questioning, how much the US were donating basically towards NATO and what they were getting for it when everyone else was lacking behind. And, you can look at that and go, oh, my God, what a ridiculous thing to say. Trump's a narcissist. He's an absolutely mental guy. But if that was any one of us and we were contributing our own money to NATO, we'd want to, and let's just say Leo was putting in £1,000 a month and you and I were bunging in 20 quid. It wouldn't...
Realistic.
Yeah, to be fair, it's about accurate, Then Leo would have every right to say, hang on a minute, what's going on?
Yeah. I don't think it's right for Europe and for Britain to be more self-sufficient when it comes to defence. We can't just rely on America to save us from every...
No, we're not ready for a war right now. We're not at all. We are
I'm not. I'm sleepy.
I'm ready to talk about a war. Anyway, moving on. What's in the front cover of the Times?
The Times. Badnoch takes swipe at Sunak over election decisions. Kemi Badnoch used the first meeting of the Shadow Cabinet to criticise Rishi Sunak's election campaign amid concerns of some of her colleagues that they failed to grasp the magnitude of this landslide victory by Labour. And she's not wrong, is she? There's been some critics of Sunak's plan when he called it, what he did when he called it, and it's all bared out in the fact that Labour have got this landslide. But it's also the sort of thing the future leader of the Tory party would say, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's very much talking from a perspective, I think, of leader and saying, look, we need to do better. It must be weird being Rishi Sunak at the moment. He's got to sit in there and get pummeled every day.
Yeah.
Because
he's had a few years of it.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's such a cuck.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else.
Anyway,
I was reaching for the button.
Sorry, guys. In my head, I was thinking I'm going to slow that down just to panic you both.
In Sunak's defence, Kerry...
there's a defence?
Well, there is a defence because he called an early election because he thought it would mean that Reform wouldn't have enough time to get their act together, get enough MPs, even with the power of AI, and have enough candidates to run in the election. Actually, Reform played a blinder and took a lot of votes. Took a lot of votes from the Conservatives. Took a lot of votes from Labour as well.
It wasn't a good gamble in so many ways. And I think also she's right to... it says that she took a swipe at Sunak, but that, unfortunately, it's just a metaphor. And she mentions his returning early from the D-Day commemorations, which was a ridiculous thing to do. It was terrible on image.
Yeah,
and a
it's
terrible
like you've got a free PR opportunity with the leaders of the free world, with Joe Biden, with everybody, the biggest ones. Yeah. And instead he turns it down for an interview with ITV. I know ITV's good, but I mean, come on, it's no GB News.
I like the fact she talks about the enormity of the Conservatives' defeat, and it's just nice to see someone using the word enormity properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Enormous rather than something awful, but absolutely correct. So,
lovely work, Kerry.
Honour for that.
And moving on, what's in the front cover of tomorrow's Telegraph, Kerry?
Well, there's all kinds of things. Would you like to know?
Let's talk about it.
I'll tell you. This is the new housing minister, Matthew Pennycock. A great name. He's basically stood against plans to build a high-rise apartment, they're saying, in his backyard. He's called it wholly inappropriate, which of course, goes against everything the government is trying to say at the moment. The new Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is talking about speeding up and relaxing the planning laws in her new speech, and the housing minister is doing exactly the opposite.
Well, exactly, and this is the problem, isn't it, with loosening planning laws? People have tried this many times before. It does not work. We don't have... I mean, they're using it to try and grow the economy. We understand that. Although I think we're being gaslit on this. I do about 40,000 miles a year driving around this country. No matter where you go, which small town, city, there is huge housing development everywhere. I'm not sure how there can be any more other than on greenfield sites. And that's going to be the problem. Yeah. That's going to be a huge problem. And, I feel slightly sorry here for... Matthew Pennycock, because everyone's going to have this, aren't they? It's not at all funny. It's not at all funny from a fellow Cox. But this is going to be a problem for ministers, MPs, all over the country.
Yeah.
Every single constituency is going to have this problem.
It's going to be some that creates friction and builds resentment against Labour, against the central Labour government, because Angela Rayner has said that the asylum seekers and illegal migrants that they're allowing into the country are going to be distributed all across the country. She says every local authority has to take their fair share. So every local authority is going to have to take around 1,500 new illegal migrants. And, bear in mind these are illegal migrants, so they're not, they might not be the most culturally assimilable. I didn't want to say that, but yeah, they're not going to be the ones who are like turning up earning 150 grand, really good at computers. They're going to be, a lot of them are going to be the other ones.
It's not a good look for the housing minister, though, is it? Really?
No, but he didn't know he was going to be housing minister.
That heavily.
Yeah.
He didn't know he was. Yeah, it reminds me of those TikToks. I know they're heavily edited, but you see those TikToks where they go up to there's people protesting to have more migrants come into the country, and someone goes up to the microphone and says, "Will you take in some migrants in your home?" And they all say, "Oh no, I haven't got enough space."
Now you're going to have to.
It's sort of going on, yeah.
Okay, so we might get to enjoy watching people do that. And finally, we've got the Daily Star, Paul.
Yes, talking about football. Yeah, your country needs you to really go for it. This is kind of a pop, really, at the way that England have played up until now. They've played some sort of very sluggish football in much the same way the French team have, actually, and they got kicked out tonight by Spain, which are these extravagant Mediterranean types, and we probably are going to need to. Don't know where that came from, and I think they're going to need to go for it, but it's going to be a nervous evening for a lot of football fans, I think, tomorrow. I will be fairly nervous about it, but I don't think either of you two care at all, do you?
And also, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm Scottish. Anyway, that's the front page is done. Coming up in part 2, Blair warns Keir on immigration, Biden isn't stepping down, and will Suella be the next Tory leader? Find out in the next section.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Khloe Kardashian has come under fire after posting a picture of her 6-year-old daughter wearing a full face of makeup.
Yeah, the reality TV star said the youngster was participating in a dance recital and that wasn't an everyday occurrence.
So this morning we're asking, is it ever OK to let children wear makeup?
Well, joining us now is journalist Julie Cook. So, Julie, it's a child wearing full rouge, bright red lipstick, hair tied back, looking very, very stylised, very much, I think, like a young adult. Is this really the sort of thing we should be doing with small children?
Oh, I think it's absolutely fine. I mean, first of all, in Khloe Kardashian's case, it was a dance recital, so it was very much a kind of performance element to it. She said herself in her post, it wasn't something they do every day. She was taking part in a dance activity. So, I think she's vindicated on that front. But I've let my daughter play with makeup since she was 3. When she was 3, she showed a distinct interest in my makeup palettes, going through my stuff. She's 10 now, and while I don't let her wear a full face like a drag queen, I do let her wear, a bit of mascara on a weekend if she wants to. I don't see any harm in it.
Clearly, if you're a child of a Kardashian who's paid millions of dollars to endorse cosmetics, that's part of the fabric of their family. My concern, though, Julie, is putting those pictures on social media where people can see them. We live in an age now where, wrong-uns are scouring the internet all the time.
A lot of girls do enjoy putting makeup on. It's almost like a self-expression thing. It's like painting on a canvas. They're just trying to be a bit artistic. I don't think it's necessarily as sort of sinister as we're making out. And I think as long as you're not posting pictures everywhere or putting them at risk of harm, I don't see any danger.
The People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Leo Carson. I'm joined by Kerry Marks and Paul Cox. And kicking things off with Wednesday's Express. And Tony Blair has warned Keir Starmer not to make the same mistakes as him on immigration, Kerry.
He has done. Yeah, exactly what he's doing. So Blair is being a bit of a backseat driver right now, and he's from the back, the usual Blair, Blair, Blair. Largely, I mean, he's the guy who's accused of opening the floodgate on immigration in the first place, and now is warning against it. But what he's saying is interesting because he's clearly saying that the public don't want it and recognising that. Yeah. But at the same time, he cannot give a reason why anyone would feel that. He doesn't show any empathy for why a large percentage of people in the country see this as a concern. So what he'll keep repeating over and over again is the enormous benefits of immigration. I do think there's benefits of immigration, but can we also say there's some downsides? Can we
absolutely not, Kerry?
No, we can't. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, and I think some Labour MPs would now be recognising some of the downsides. I mean, Jess Phillips was heckled by pro-Gaza. We've seen this Islamist wave of MPs and political pressure groups like Muslim Vote, and they've made things really quite nasty for people like Jess Phillips.
Well, I think Jess was quite disingenuous after that because she made it sound like it's because they were just men rather than, Islamist men. She couldn't bring herself to do that because it's so against her own narrative, the narrative of her party.
Ideologically trapped.
Now, I don't think she's that stupid. I think she's an extremely bright woman, but I thought that was a stupid thing to say.
She's in Labour.
Well, I mean, I do. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of her politics, but to get where she has done, despite all her obvious problems, is quite something. Quite an achievement. But this story is remarkable in the sense that are we supposed to believe that Sir Keir Starmer and Tony Blair don't talk every day of the week? Yeah. And are we also supposed to think that this sounds to me like Tony Blair has gone to Keir Starmer and said, "Oh, this is what I'm going to get you to do," and then gone to the public and gone, "Well, I think this is what Keir Starmer should do." Like there's some sort of 1D chess.
Maybe it's maybe it's Labour, because I've seen this story resurfacing day after day in the papers, and I think it's Labour getting the message out to people that yes, we recognise that immigration is out of control in the UK. I mean, if we're having 100,000 illegal immigrants a year, then that's unsustainable, and that's a tiny proportion of the 1.2 million legal migrants that come every year at the moment.
No, after you, Kerry, sorry.
I was going to say, for the reasons you just said, you've got to recognise why public opinion is changing on this, and it's also the agenda of the word that was originally people who were woke called themselves woke and then got offended by their own word because they were so busy getting offended by everything. The social justice agenda hasn't looked good for this. I mean, if my family moved into your house and then spent all their time telling you how horrible they find your family and how much they hate you, and they said, "We've got more light to come in," you're going to say no. Yeah. So for a long time,
I might even put a lock on the door.
Yes.
Build a wall around my house.
I think that is a relevant thing of how people are feeling. People don't like to feel bad about
the great thing about Scotland, though, is no one wants to immigrate there. so it's never really been a problem, has it?
You take that back, Paul. You'd love our cooking. Anyway, Wednesday's Daily Mail now, and Boris is worried that Labour are unpicking the good work the Tories did, to which I have to ask, what good work?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Labour will axe Brexit next. Plus, this is Boris Johnson leads the Tory backlash to Sir Keir Starmer's ditching of levelling up. And the ex-PM posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, as we know this afternoon, axing levelling up shows lack of ambition and a failure to believe in this country's potential. Labour will axe Brexit next, and then they will pointlessly whack up taxes and drift backwards, and the drift backwards has begun. Now, levelling up was Boris's baby, and the idea was a good idea, but unfortunately there was little to zero levelling up achieved at any point. So anyone coming in was going to say, "Oh, we're just going to get rid of that. It doesn't work." Yep. What they are doing, I don't know if people have twigged this, is with giving more power to the metro mayors, they're saying to the Metro mayors, you go and spend the money, you go and raise the taxes yourself. And that's essentially what they're going to do, because at the moment, levelling up has been the choice of central government. Where's that money going to go? Now, if you keep devolving power more and more to Metro mayors, whilst that all looks rather lovely, what they're going to do in the end is they're going to say, well, we haven't got enough money, so we're just going to put taxes up locally, and are going to be at the behest of whatever the emotional political drive is in a local area each time.
Yeah, it sounds like what's happened in Scotland. And also it sounds like a recipe for corruption if you've got these, loosely monitored Metro mayors in charge of budgets.
Yes. It does. You know what? I decided to agree. The whole thing. I saw the picture of them taking down the levelling up sign, and people are saying they haven't done much yet, but they've already taken down a sign. So give them credit for that. Yeah. And levelling up it actually doesn't mean very much. It's been around for a long time. It's not really Johnson's. Theresa May used the same phrase about taxes. I think old Blair about taxes. Theresa May used it during her campaign. Originally, it comes from from 1868, and it was about levelling up Catholics and the C of E.
Right.
So it's been around for... Disraeli complained about it and insisted on knowing what the hell it means. So, no one actually knows.
We just need to recognise that we're now a country in decline, so we need to be levelling down.
Levelling down. Yeah. Look, it's a new party, it's new branding, it's what you get. And Angela Rayner has said that we have to get rid of gimmicks and slogans. Then she started chanting, get rid of gimmicks and slogans. And she's now, having said that, she's going to have to avoid using any sloganeering for the rest of her time in office.
It's going to be a tough 5 years.
Yeah.
We've got the News next with an update on the Tory leadership contest, and it's bad news for Braverman, Kerry, or is it?
Her leadership bid hangs by a thread as supporters desert her, and this is all based around her speech. Of course, she's really a closet reform politician, isn't she? I think just not come out of the closet yet, do you think?
Potentially.
I don't think she necessarily has a way of winning. I think what she did with the book Win Friends and Influence People was to use it as toilet paper, and I don't think she really cares. And I quite like that about her. She doesn't care what anyone thinks, and she says what she thinks.
She's a real conviction politician, and she won't change those convictions for what's politically correct or expedient.
Totally, and she complained about the progress flag and how it was flown over government buildings, which I kind of see the point. You can't really say you're oppressed if your flag is more popular than the flag of the country that you're in. I think, and of course, the progress flag originally developed from the Pride flag, and it had lots of colours in it. It had pink and turquoise. Pink represented sex, and turquoise magic. But they had to get rid of those because they couldn't get enough pink fabric. Which I don't know if I can say this, but I think that's because the gays were wearing it all. And so they got rid of the sex and magic from it, and now they have this flag that's forever growing with more and more colours and more inclusivity. Everything except it doesn't include one-legged people yet or the blind, but then you can give them any flag.
Don't give them ideas, because they'll be... it includes asexuals and also fetishes, like people who dress up as dogs, but they're only discriminated against and they're not allowed on the couch. Now, Paul...
Where's the colour for lonely and horny?
That's... I'm not the man to... I'm not going to admit that on TV. But, Braverman's complained that the civil service is this blob that stultifies the Tory government and wouldn't let them, and flew these progressive flags that stand for child genital mutilation and all the rest of it. But also, on the other hand, she was the Home Secretary. She was the boss. Why didn't she just make it happen and crack some coconuts and do it?
Good choice of...
I don't think you can say coconut.
You can smash... No, let's not question it, actually. It's a good choice of phrase.
Yeah. Like a bounty advert.
Suella Braverman was probably the most Conservative Tory MP in the cabinet.
It's not saying much.
By far. And, she's one of these anomalies for me where people go, she's evil. Suella Braverman's evil. You think, well, point out where. But she was the Home Secretary that said that immigration was a bad thing. Illegal immigration was a bad thing. Yeah, that was her job. She was the Home Secretary.
Also, it's illegal.
Yeah.
It's illegal immigration. There's a clue in the
No one's sending back Indian doctors on a blooming dinghy, are they?
Yeah.
It's not happening. People seem to have got this. This is exactly what Kerry was talking about, the social justice warriors. All these things have just got wrapped up. We've lost the whole point of everything. No one knows what they're arguing about anymore, and the Tories don't know themselves.
Yeah.
They don't know who they are, and to let go of Suella Braverman, I can see Suella Braverman being a Reform MP, and she's my constituency MP.
Oh, really?
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Right.
Great. Yeah, maybe she'll make the jump. Well, moving on to The Guardian, with Labour promising the era of culture wars is over. I assume this means they're shutting down GB News and making it illegal to criticise the government, Paul.
That'll do it. Era of culture wars is over, pledges new Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy. It was also someone who didn't know what a woman was. Lisa Nandy has promised in her first speech as Culture Secretary, saying her department will be at the heart of efforts to reflect a more positive and less divisive version of the UK. I've seen this sentiment myself all over my Twitter timeline, but it's always vitriolic. The culture war's over now. We've won. Right, OK, yeah. Right, smashing. So the idea is that populism is now dead. Yeah. And that culture wars have been won. There was never anything. There was no such thing as the culture wars. Really, cancel culture didn't really exist. And right now, because Labour are back in, they believe that that's been won. That's a load of rubbish. It's just the start of things. It's even more divisive to come out and say this.
Yeah. We're seeing issues getting, if anything, escalating, becoming more apparent to people, even people who don't follow them. So the number of detransitioners, people who have been, advised to, or steered into a route of transitioning, often when they're quite young, often when they're even teenagers, and then it's turned out to be a terrible thing for them. They deeply regret it. And I've seen horrific videos of women crying while they're breastfeeding because they can't breastfeed because they had their breasts removed, so they're having to do it with a bottle. And
how do you remove your breast with a bottle?
And why are you searching for these videos?
Breastfeeding. I need a solicitor with me. They're not breastfeeding, they're feeding the baby with the bottle.
I was with you, really.
Oh, right, OK.
I'm just playing. Yeah, she starts off quite well, talking about polarisation, division and isolation, and then suddenly she's wandering off into... Well, she talks about how under the Conservatives there was too much feuding and criticising the BBC, which I thought that was good work, really. Yeah. And then suddenly, towards the end of her speech, she gets into a whole thing about some women from Wigan who hired a coach to see a play in Manchester about the role in the miners' strike. Yeah, and then she says, "This is what we're really about," and I don't understand what that is about.
No, she's just chucking in words. Lisa Nandy.
Is it end of the culture wars getting people to see plays about themselves? Because that's great. It's just not what I was expecting.
I've always thought Lisa Nandy's a good politician. Yeah. When she was running for Labour leader, I liked some of the things that she said. You remember. After Corbyn. But she seems so tied up with the minutiae of culture wars and all this sort of wokery that it's all just getting lost. Yep. I mean, exactly that point I was going to make, talking about coaches. No, not at all. Talking about coaches. No, sorry, Kerry, it's OK. Talking about coaches and women from Wigan going to Manchester. I mean, it's just... words.
I'm happy for them, though.
Yeah, I hope they all got there. I hope they all got there and had a nice time.
I hope they didn't have a nice time, because that's our taxes being spent on that.
Well, we should do a play about the whole country and all go. The trouble with the inclusivity is there's a lot of exclusivity going on with it.
That's it for part 2. In part 3, a Labour MP celebrates skin colour, Humza Yousaf shows his bias, and a convicted terrorist on benefits in the UK. See you then.
Hello, welcome back to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Cloudy and damp in the north during the next 24 hours. Drier further south, still with some showers, however, and it's going to stay humid across southern parts of the UK, with humid air from the continent extending across many parts. But that means also a lot of cloud cover, continued risk of thunderstorms for the evening across East Wales into the Midlands and North West England before they ease overnight, and continued outbreaks of persistent rain for many other parts across Scotland and Northern Ireland. Further south, although it stays cloudy overnight, it will be drier and it will be a mild night. Muggy in some spots, 15 or 16 Celsius during the start of the day. But for northern Scotland, where it's increasingly damp, especially the northeast, across parts of Aberdeenshire, that rain driving in on a brisk northeasterly breeze. Likewise, outbreaks of, at times, heavy rain continue across the central belt, southwest Scotland, Northern Ireland. But for England and Wales, it's drier, although not entirely dry as we start off Wednesday. A lot of low cloud around and some showers here and there. Now, those showers will increasingly move east and north through the morning. Brighter skies develop across southern England and South Wales. And it's going to be warm when the sun comes through, with temperatures reaching 23, 24 Celsius. Not feeling so warm across northeast Scotland, where that rain continues to pile up. And there is the risk of localised flooding with that rain, particularly across parts of Aberdeenshire into the Grampians, 50 to 80 millimetres in places. It's still there for the start of Thursday, albeit easing and pushing into the North Sea. Elsewhere across the UK, Thursday begins with, once again, a lot of cloud cover, but that cloud will break through during the day. Some showers will develop, but all in all, a drier day for many. Friday, likewise, a mix of bright spells and showers, and similar into the weekend.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and getting straight into Wednesday's Telegraph, where Labour's Dawn Butler has posted a reductive, sectarian, racially divisive tweet celebrating her ethnicity. But it's okay, because she's not white, Paul.
That's a good point, Leo. Dawn Butler claims she was reported to police over Labour melanin tweet. So on Monday, the MP for Brent East posted photographs on social media alongside a number of black Labour politicians with the caption, "Labour government showing off the melanin." Now, she can't lose, can she? She can't lose because she helped create the game. And the number one rule of this game is that everything is racist except her. So no matter what she does, I was trying to write stuff about this. I was thinking, well, I can't say that, and I can't do that, and I can't say that. She has got this absolutely cornered. Dawn Butler is the queen of this stuff. Yeah. And she immediately just goes, I couldn't stop laughing. Isn't it hilarious? Now, I'm inclined to say something like...
Hilarious that she was reported to the police.
Yeah, and by the way, there is the rules of the game now. Everything is racist except Dawn Butler or anyone of colour. And that's not to say that everyone of colour believes this as well. In fact, most people of colour don't. And we need to make colour of people's skin much less important.
And yeah, Dawn Butler seems to be going in the opposite direction. She posts a tweet saying, this is, whatever she said about the melanin, showing off the melanin, and as if skin colour means that, because I was brought up to believe that skin colour was just skin deep, and everybody's equal.
That was very 80s and 90s.
South West Scotland was an incredibly progressive place.
That's where I thought we were going. Look, I don't think this is much of a story, really. The story is someone rang the police over nothing, really. It's not a big story, but it's still a bit... The whole thing
I think it's a big story, because if a white politician had gone out there and said, "Oh, look, we're all out here, hey, white pride," they'd be in the Tower of London.
I don't think that's the problem. She's saying celebrate the melanin and so on, but we've all got melanin. What she's actually having a go at is albinos, which is horrible of her.
She's very anti-albino.
Really nasty take.
She's being albino-phobic.
She's being albino-phobic, yeah. Well, we say albino, but you can say albino if you like.
Right, well, you see...
we can have an argument about that. But she also says in her tweet, my morning message to those people is get used to me celebrating my greatness. Who talks like that?
I'll tell you who does. Beyonce and megalomaniacs.
Well, moving on, we've got the Daily Mail now, and the Canadian government is killing thousands of its citizens in the name of progress. Wow, they weren't lying when they said Trudeau is a communist, Kerry.
It says Canada's broken a record. Hooray! In euthanasia death, so not so good, really. Canada is on track to break euthanasia. It really makes it sound exciting. They can do it. I know they can do it. They're growing the suicide program or doctor-assisted suicide program, which makes it okay. And the system is called MAID, which is mad with I in it, if a matter of interest. Alex Schattenberg, the director of the coalition, says even more people are approved for euthanasia, even when they suffer from nothing more. I don't really know. I don't have strong feelings against euthanasia. I'm for it for an awful lot of people I've met.
Not by a doctor. I mean, I'd do it with a shovel.
Well, what's remarkable?
Shovel.
Yeah.
Can we stop there for a second? How are you going to commit euthanasia with a shovel?
You just hit them with the shovel.
Oh, I see. I thought you were doing it yourself. I thought you were euthanasia.
Yeah. No, somebody could do that as well.
I see.
But I mean, this is sold to us. The Canadian government says, "Oh, this is just helping people that are in terrible conditions, in terrible dire pain, or terminal illnesses, or whatever." But it's not at all. There are young, healthy, physically healthy people being euthanized, and there are people who are being offered euthanasia when they're just in, dire financial straits. They could be homeless. They could have some other issue or a treatable condition that's expensive to treat. There was a depressed 21-year-old whose mother only found out that he'd submitted himself for euthanasia and been approved for euthanasia when she opened a letter. I mean, it's a bit nosy, but I mean, I guess it's understandable. Maybe that's why he wanted to kill himself. But, no, he had diabetes. He was blind in one eye, and he was depressed. But apart from that, he was a perfectly viable human being. I mean, I think it's a really slippery slope to then be, we're letting children transition, and then now we're letting children kill themselves.
Yeah, I like to sort of spin these and try and look at them from different angles to see if it makes sense. Now, if you saw a documentary about how a Nazi doctor during World War II had been experimenting with assisted suicide, you'd be horrified.
Yeah.
Yet when the Canadians do it, it's progressive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter what angle you look at it. Euthanasia should be for maybe the terminally ill. Motor neurons disease comes to mind straight away. We see people, and not everybody has to take that, and not everyone, by the way, fighting motor neurons disease has to go for euthanasia. But it strikes me as one of those sorts of things where you might consider it because you can see what's going to happen to you for the rest of your life. Just because it's raining in July in London on a Tuesday, it doesn't mean you can go to the GP and say...
Oh, I don't know. I've had some pretty bad Tuesdays, I think the Nazi doctor is a little different because he definitely wants to kill you. It's not quite the same.
I think progressive governments want to kill you as well. So we're moving on. We've got the Telegraph next, and I think Humza Yousaf is Scotland's greatest ever leader because he destroyed the SNP. He's now destroying what little is left of his credibility with some biased comments about Israel, Paul.
Yeah, indeed. People condemning Russia, but not Israel, are hypocrites, says Yousaf. A former First Minister makes a apparent swipe at Sir Keir Starmer after PM hit out at Russian bombing of Kyiv Hospital. Humza Yousaf, we haven't missed you. Thanks for coming back. He appears to have forgotten why the war started in Gaza.
Absolutely.
Now, I know he's got skin in the game. I know that he's got family in Palestine, but you can't conflate the two. I know it's very easy politically. It's very easy for people like us, comedians or commentators, to say, oh, if you like one, you shouldn't like the other, etc., etc. But the two are vastly different.
Yeah.
They're absolutely different, and you shouldn't conflate the two.
Russia invaded Ukraine. That's how the Ukraine war started, whereas Israel was invaded by Hamas. So it's a complete. It's completely opposite. And also, Russia deliberately targets hospitals and civilian areas, whereas Israel tries to minimise civilian casualties. And in fact, when we saw that hospital bombed, it was reported as Israel having bombed it. In fact, it was a Hamas rocket that had fallen short.
Totally. And Russia's hit 2 hospitals, in fact, and a load of civilian infrastructure. Yeah. What people seem to... There's a lot of people saying things that are such nonsense at the moment about the right to defend yourself against occupation and so on, which there is a right, if that is an occupation, which is arguable with Israel. But at the same time, that right is only a right if you're following the law. It doesn't mean there is no law involved. And Hamas, Houthi, Iran, Hezbollah, they're not being held to any international laws at all. Yeah. Right now, Hezbollah has been bombing Israel for the last few months, and what I'm seeing is headlines coming up now saying that Israel is preparing to attack Hezbollah. They're not preparing. They've been attacked for the last few months, you know. And at any time, the UN could have put down Resolution 1701, which is designed to stop that, to force them to move back from the border. But they're simply not doing it. To compare the two is ridiculous. These are totally different wars that started for very different reasons. And the similarity really is with Russia and with Hamas totally ignoring all international law and going for civilian structures wherever they can with no excuse. Because don't forget also Israel, there's loads of evidence now of 25-mile tunnels going underneath Gaza. The people who've been stolen, taken into Gaza, have not been allowed to be seen by the Red Cross. So these are all war crimes.
Yeah.
You know, so the war crimes are just mounting up and mounting up.
Do you know what's
right
really
now.
interesting?
It doesn't let Russia off at all.
It is obviously what Kerry's saying is incredibly insightful, but there will be swathes of the UK and the West who would never have heard that before and will immediately doubt it because it's not what they've heard or seen or read.
Well, the progressive idea is that Hamas attacking Israel was decolonising because apparently Israel is a colonising force. Yet somehow the Jews were there first. It's the oldest religion, and the whole of the Middle East is now Muslim. So who was really colonising who? Who's really the colonising force there, if you really want to look at it through that prism? Anyway, moving on, we've got the Daily Mail with a story about a convicted terrorist pal of bin Laden on benefits with a £1 million house provided by the taxpayer who might be allowed to groom children. Man, are they generating these stories in a computer just to make me angry, Kerry?
Yeah, are we supposed to say former terrorist?
Yeah.
Former terrorist? Is that how it works?
Well, you're always an alcoholic, so you must always be a terrorist.
Yeah, it seems that terrorism does pay. And this has all happened because of the emergence of a photograph of him in this a youth centre in Birmingham. And of course, it's been going on for there's through the article here. They talk about back from the 80s and 90s of a whole load of terrorists who were in this country who were housed here. Abu Hamza is one people might remember, who was arrested because he had blood on his hand and hook. And these people were defended by Corbyn and McDonnell, who stood up for them, said there was no credible evidence had been levelled against them. And then in the meantime, the truck bomb, the attack on the US embassies and so on, they spent time in prison for, and there's a list of evidence and proof. You're about to move us on.
Yes, sorry, we're out of time.
Really good
I
point.
could listen to that all night. That's part 3 done. Coming up in the final section, KFC bans bacon to be inclusive, the worst comedy gig in the world, and holidaying to death. See you in a couple of minutes.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
No one wants their child to be a fussy eater. But what is the secret to expanding your child's culinary horizons?
Is there a way to get kids away from the kids' menu, the fish fingers, the chips? Joining us now is the UK's top-selling author of children's cookery books, Annabelle Carmel. Good morning, Annabelle.
Thank you. So lovely to be here.
So, first of all, what's the issue with kids just having the traditional easy meals like fish fingers, you know, chips, beans?
It really depends if they've got preservatives in them, if they're full of salt. So I like to make them myself, and it's really easy. So I make my own chicken glazed nuggets, and super easy to make using proper pieces of chicken. You can cook them in the air fryer now, which is absolutely brilliant, so you need to fry them. And I think that it's really important that children grow up loving good food, because they make their minds up by the age of 5 what they like and what they don't like, and it's quite difficult to change their minds after that. But it's good to know that fussy eating is genetic. It's not to do with your cooking.
Oh,
that's right. Not to say that you can't do something about it. So I've written many, many books, and I have an app with 1,000 recipes on it, and a lot of how to make your own junk food, how to make your own isoles out of fresh fruit.
Yes.
How to make your own pizzas. I make the most amazing homemade pizza. I actually brought you some cookies here.
So these are your books here. So my first cookbook, that's for how old children?
That's from the age of 1.
OK, and you've got a weaning one at the end, the baby one?
Yes, that's my very first book. I lost my first child. It was really sad. She died at the age of 3 months. And my second child was the world's worst eater. And I wrote that book as my legacy to Natasha, never thinking that it would start a whole career.
Oh, bless you.
It sold millions of copies, and it's so popular.
Is it quite pivotal and important that you introduce kids to the weaning stage, or, you know, how important?
It's very important, because the processed weaning food in pouches or jars, it's heated, so a lot of the vitamins aren't there anymore, so making your own is so easy and much cheaper.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and we're kicking off with Wednesday's Daily Mail, where KFC have banned bacon to be more inclusive to Muslims. How is banning something being inclusive, Kerry? It's literally the dictionary definition of not being inclusive.
Oh, we're on this story.
Yeah, the bacon one.
It's lucky I'm catching up with you all the time, isn't it? Yes, they're going to stop doing anything but halal chicken. You've already said this in KFC, which I'm all for, by the way, because I find chicken tastes a lot better after 25 people have blessed it. I'll have
the KFC blessed meal.
Yeah, that's what it is. It has to be, properly drained and blessed. And I had meat once that was blessed by only 24 people, and it was awful. It's the extra one that makes all the difference.
Yeah. Paul, is somebody with a gammon in your name.
Yeah.
Are you a bit worried that pork products are being banned?
I am worried that pork products are being banned. obviously for my own branding. My family are fed on my ability to be able to pork it up. But it's fascinating. I mean, because this story is based on the fact that Canada, the province, has had 650,000 migrants over 5 years. It doesn't say where they've come from, and then talks about halal. So we can only assume that they're followers of a certain religion.
Sounds like they're from Britain.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, they may have come from Birmingham, but there was an attempt at a joke with ham.
Proud of the pun there.
Not at all. I actually backed out halfway through. Sorry, Leo. We have to keep this going and make it interesting. By the way, Canada is becoming rapidly the most mental country on the face of the earth.
It certainly is.
Oh, yeah, it has been for a while, yes.
I think Britain's going to give it a run for the money. We've got the Sun next, and look out, ladies, microchips are now better than you at being beautiful, with a computer-generated beauty queen who'll turn your floppy disk into a hard drive, Paul.
Magical stuff, Leo. World's first AI beauty queen wins pageant. You can't win anything if you're an AI beauty queen. But however, pageant and claims $13,000 prize in computer-generated acceptance speech. This is Ken Zalali, a computer-generated influencer from Morocco, and has been crowned the world's first
It's the contest for, it's for AI.
Yeah, AI beauty queens.
So it wasn't up against real women?
No, not up against real women at all. Real women don't exist anymore.
First they got the trans women coming into the sports, then the computer.
Oh, this is the whole point. They're misgendering it throughout the whole article here. They keep calling it she.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure it will be very offending because it's definitely an it, right?
It's a computer.
So what happened was a computer-generated image AI competed against other AIs. So what's really happened is no one won anything against anyone.
No.
Nothing has actually happened here.
It was a computer game.
Yeah, it's a bit of fun. It's harmless, but I don't really like vanity in my AIs.
No.
I don't want a beauty-winning
That could be the thing that
AI
tips them over the edge. We've got the Daily Mail now, and Renault have brought out a feature that nobody asked for, a built-in backseat driver, Kerry.
Yeah, the idea is that it's going to give you points for your safe driving. So whether you're sticking within your lane, whether you're getting too close to the car in front, you'll get points out of 100. No one's going to want this car.
No.
If it stopped middle lane hoggers, I'll be fine with that. We're not being told off enough is what they've decided, so they need more of that. What I'd like is a car that gives you points for fun. You've just gone through a red light, but no one spotted you.
Yeah, well done.
Here's an extra 10 points. You're 100, but you slow down in time for the camera. 20 points. But what it's actually going to do is you're going to have a horrible accident, your family are all dead, the dog's dead, and a voice is going to come on and go, you lose 10 points for that.
Let's quickly cover this before we go. It's in the Times and it's looking at the Edinburgh Fringe, which is next month, and there's an early contender for worst gig of the Fringe already, Paul.
Oh my goodness, there isn't there just. Fringe comedians offered free stays for breakfast jester shows. Comedians are being urged to work shifts as a breakfast jester. I don't like this word already, jester. During the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Hat with the bells on.
Exactly, yeah. We're not jesters, you idiots. During the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, in exchange for free lodgings more than 40 miles away from Edinburgh.
Wow.
Of course, this is all about the fact that digs and accommodation in Edinburgh is so expensive, to the point that even Jason Mansford has pulled out from doing it, which is ridiculous, because he's a millionaire. But the idea of entertaining people at breakfast, can you imagine anything worse? While people are there trying to figure out the bloody toaster, and you're there giving. Imagine the Fringe comedians as well talking about social justice, and all you want to know is where the marmalade is.
And also, a lot of those people are probably just there for a conference, to learn about some accounting software.
And it's going to be punsters, right? You can't have any subject over breakfast. People at the buffet and so on, and it's going to be people with egg and bacon puns over and over again. Nothing else is going to work in that situation.
That sounds like it could be us.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd do it. For the right fee, I'd do it.
Well, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Wednesday's front pages. The Times leads with Starmer is playing with fire on defence spending. The Guardian has Starmer calls on NATO countries to raise defence spending. The Daily Mail has Britain's most despicable drink driver. The Telegraph has Prime Minister could boost the size of the armed forces. The Express has cleverly, this is James Cleverly, Labour has hung a huge open sign on the White Cliffs of Dover. He's being metaphorical there, they haven't really done that. And the Daily Star has go for it. That's a message for our football team. Well, England's football team. I shouldn't be saying that as a Scotsman, they won't let me back in. That's all we have time for tonight. Thank you to my guests, Kerry Marks and Paul Cox. Do check out their live shows. I know they're performing all over the UK. And we're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Simon Evans, Steve N. Allen and Nicholas DeSantos. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Good night.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome back to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Cloudy and damp in the north during the next 24 hours. Drier further south, still with some showers, however, and it's going to stay humid across southern parts of the UK, with humid air from the continent extending across many parts. But that means also a lot of cloud cover, continued risk of thunderstorms for the evening across East Wales into the Midlands and North West England before they ease overnight, and continued outbreaks of persistent rain for many other parts across Scotland and Northern Ireland. Further south, although it stays cloudy overnight, it will be drier and it will be a mild night. Muggy in some spots, 15 or 16 Celsius during the start of the day. But for northern Scotland, where it's increasingly damp, especially the northeast, across parts of Aberdeenshire, that rain driving in on a brisk northeasterly breeze. Likewise, outbreaks of, at times, heavy rain continue across the central belt, southwest Scotland, Northern Ireland. But for England and Wales, it's drier, although not entirely dry as we start off Wednesday. A lot of low cloud around and some showers here and there. Now, those showers will increasingly move east and north through the morning. Brighter skies develop across southern England and South Wales, and it's going to be warm when the sun comes through, with temperatures reaching 23, 24 Celsius. Not feeling so warm across northeast Scotland, where that rain continues to pile up. And there is the risk of localised flooding with that rain, particularly across parts of Aberdeenshire into the Grampians, 50 to 80 millimetres in places. It's still there for the start of Thursday, albeit easing and pushing into the North Sea. Elsewhere across the UK, Thursday begins with, once again, a lot of cloud cover, but that cloud will break through during the day. Some showers will develop, but all in all, a drier day for many. Friday, likewise, a mix of bright spells and showers, and similar into the weekend.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Summer could be a scorcher, with your chance to win £30,000 cash, our biggest cash prize to date. It's totally tax-free, which means you get to spend every single penny however you like. What plans would you make?